I was trying to organise an online shopping delivery whilst talking to my son on his mobile about him needing a new car when the landline rang, indicating Auntie May as the caller. Hiya! My casual tone was affront. I didn't feel casual. Auntie May had it in her head that this corona thing would all be over by Easter, although that had come and gone. But she was convinced that we were all making a fuss over Nout, and her neighbour, Barbara, was still trotting off to Aldi and the market for their shopping, still gallivanting about with that hand sanitizer and gloves. Was I being overcautious? Anyway, I digress. I expected the frail tone of a 90-year-old after a post-lunch nap, but no. This was a more urgent tone. I recognised Barbara's voice. Fiona, it's Barbara, Auntie May's neighbour. It's about your Auntie May. She sounded breathless. I can't deny. I took a sharp intake of breath and I wanted to say, "What the hell do you want? Last time we spoke, you made it obvious that I should butt out." Not her actual words. It was more a Betty Davis hiss. "We don't need you telling us what to do." It was a bit creepy. Anyway, I took a moment and said, relatively calmly, because, well, frankly, I thought Auntie May had popped her clogs. "What's wrong?" I asked in trepidation. Barbara started gabbling. May had got herself in a state and she said she had to see Janice, her sister, before she died. May, not Janice. So I said, well, if that's all it is, give her a sweet cup of tea and make her go and have a lie down. From the distance I could hear shouting, "I'm going, Barbara! Get me a taxi!" Barbara whispered, "I've told her we're in lockdown, but I can't calm her. She stood at the top of the stairs and she says she's going to chuck herself from top to bottom if I don't phone for a taxi. I don't know what to do." I rolled my eyes. Old age, I thought for a second. Well, what could I do? 70 miles or a couple of hours away and in lockdown. God above, this was all I needed. Husband shielding, lads whittled, that's dialect for worried, about furlough and government grants, not to mention it was impossible to get a sodding grocery delivery because I didn't qualify being under 70. No taxi was going to take her to Skegness. Then I wondered if Auntie might have a water infection. That sent folk a bit batty. But I was assured she was just convinced she was going to die. She didn't sound like she was going to die. She'd have to have an ambulance. She'd refused to go into hospital. Perhaps they could give her a sedative. Barbara asked me if I was still there. Well, I mean here. I wished I wasn't. Auntie May had twigged by now that Barbara was on the phone and had bullied her into telling her who it was. She grabbed the phone after slithering downstairs on her behind. "Oh, Fiona, Barbara won't get me a taxi," she wailed. "I'll have to go on the bus." Seriously? An image of John McEnroe flashed up. Did he have an Auntie May? "Oh, Fiona," the wailing increased. "Why will nobody help me?" I shoved John McEnroe aside and channelled the district nurse. "It's just all a bit difficult to organise, Auntie. If you can just tell me why you're so upset. Don't you feel well? Should I ask the doctor to give you a ring?" I should have known better. She didn't need the bloody doctor. She just needed to get a bloody taxi to Skegness, where she was going to chuck herself down the bloody stairs. I pointed out it wasn't the best idea, because the plan had always been to be independent. And if she chucked herself down the bloody stairs, she probably wouldn't kill herself. But she'd end up an invalid, in a home. And anyway, she'd just come down the bloody stairs to talk to me. On reflection, that was a bit harsh. I left a few messages, shoved some spare knickers, deodorant, comb, hand sanitizer, masks, rubber gloves and disinfectant spray into an overnight bag, picked up the car keys and set off for Skegness via Leeds. The young police motorway patrol officer told me that I shouldn't really be travelling and it was rather a tall story, but on reflection didn't think I could have made it up. And as he eyed the old dear dozing in the passenger seat, told me his grandmother was a bit like that now. He told me to stay safe, yeah ma'am? I think he probably thought, Christ, the paperwork, send them on their way, bugger Boris. You couldn't make it up. He was right. And we still hadn't got to Auntie Janice's. I really hoped we'd reach Skeggy before Auntie did pop her clogs, because she didn't look too rosy after having to stop at the petrol station, negotiate the forecourt, burly truckers, not a euphemism, and a one-way system to go to the loo. I put my foot down the last 30 miles, checking the mirror and hoping Janice wouldn't have a fit about us breaking lockdown. But we won't be making a crazy trip like that anymore.